Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching and listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Also, my guest today, very interesting guest, CEO and co-founder at YonaLink, Iddo Peleg, and he's got quite the career, and I think it's going to be inspirational for a lot of people in this space. He's been a team lead for various biotech companies. He's been a project manager. He's been a project manager both for biotechs and for a big CRO, IQVIA, director of Clin Ops for all clinical trial operations, vendor management. He's been that at two different companies in the Clin Ops. And then somewhere in between all those, he got the inspiration for YonaLink and is one of the co-founders and the CEO. So I mean, you clearly know what you're doing, Iddo. You
I
clearly
hope. Yeah,
you
I hope
wouldn't.
that I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know, I think the industry is in trouble because you have an extensive background. So maybe we start with that. How many people in this space are not so experienced, especially when they start tech companies, right? Because at the end of the day, YonaLink is a vendor, right? I would say there's four main stakeholders in this space: sites, CRO, sponsor, and tech vendors. Of course, patience. And tech vendor is the easiest one to get into because you don't need a background in research. You can just hear things, read things, get investments, have an idea. How important is it to have this background that you have in order before you start a solutions for CROs, sponsors, even sites?
So, what happened right so far in the tech vendors of the clinical trials, every three talented guys that know to write a code, they can build their own EDC. It can be a good EDC, it can be a challenging EDC, but they can build a solution. Or they can do some kind of interface to manage stuff. So it's not so complicated, meaning to develop it from the tech side. When you are getting into the actual life about the clinical trial side, this is starting to be very complicated because, okay, so you have a product, but the site is your user, mainly user, but the value is not just for the site. The value can be to the CRO, it can be for the sponsor. So to know this industry very deeply, I think this is super important. And you need to think all the time, okay, who will get the value from my product? Who is the target audience? And it's two different things. The value can be, as I said, to one stakeholder, but the user are going to be a different stakeholder.
Yes. I think there's a lot of things you unpack there. I think one of the key takeaways that you brought up that is, to me, it's clear, it's not clear to everyone, is the developing of the technologies ubiquitous almost, like anyone can do. You're going to get to a point where AI can do it at some point. It's the marriage of the user's experience and the actual needs for it. Because, like you said, the sites are a user, and then the CROs or the sponsors are another user, but their interests are not always the same or aligned, and their values are not always the same. So you kind of
Mm-hmm.
have to please them all, or you could take the strategy, screw these ones. The sponsor are paying us, so we're gonna just prioritize their values, and then the sites, whatever, or vice versa, which doesn't really work. But what do you think about this philosophy?
So, sometimes when I'm meeting with the venture capital, so they're asking me, what is your special sauce? Keep telling them, guys, I'm not the smartest guy in the neighborhood. We have a super talented CTO and R&D team, okay? Two-thirds of the companies are techie guys, top, very talented technology guys. But I think the secret is to put all the different pieces of the puzzle in the right place. Microsoft developed Word, they developed the Excel sheet, but there is no IP behind it. If you know exactly who is going to, what you need to do, who are the stakeholders, who is going to use your system, who is going to watch the data, and how this, all these different players are going to interact in your platform, I think this is the key. In our case, we had to learn about how to get the data from the EHR, how to map it, how to put it in the EDC, different CRAs, CRF, different data lakes. So there is a lot of different things to consider when you're starting to approach and to develop these types of technology. And more than that, and we can speak about it later, you need to know that you're going to do mistakes. And when you have the mistakes, don't stick to your mistakes. You need to go back, even if you're wasting time, and fix the mistakes. Otherwise, you can drag them for years ahead.
Yeah. And using your career as an example, right? So you started out as a preclinical team lead, then you got a similar type of role, clinical project manager. These are both biotech, it looks like. One was involved with stem cells, one was fibrin fleece. So there was a device. And then you jumped to Quintiles, which is now IQVIA, but the
Yeah.
old school people remember it as Quintiles. By the way, I think that was a much better name, but who am I? Who am I to
Yeah.
say anything? You've seen the pain points, just those three roles, and you've done more since. You've seen enough pain points, I think, from the sites, from the sponsors and CROs, and even vendors. What were some of the biggest pain points you saw? And I'm assuming YonaLink is a solution to some of them, but maybe top three, even if they're not related to what YonaLink is doing now, that maybe someone else is working on.
So, I keep telling to my team is this is exactly what I keep telling to them that I founded YonaLink because of my things that I didn't like to do or I didn't do them well. When I worked in the biotech company and it's stem cells and you have a kid that was treated and was transplanted with a cord blood cell that was expanded and it's so innovative and you have a kid that was treated in Duke University, and the medical director is keep nagging me, I need the data. What is happening? And I know exactly what is happening at the site with the study coordinator and the data coordinator. And I can't call them every day. I'm a shy guy. I don't want to call, send them email. Could you please complete the CRF? What is happening with the patient? Because I know that they have a lot of studies, they have a lot of things to do, and I'm sitting in my office and I'm saying, I know that the data is in the EHR. Why it cannot be transferred automatically into the EDC? They need to take care of the patient. They have a lot of other stuff to do, not to sit with two screen and copying data. And when I moved to Quintiles, or to, as you mentioned, to IQVIA, I started as a senior CRA, but the true is that I was a very bad because what I did great, I was not a bad CRA, but I didn't like a lot of the CRA tasks. I think this is better positioning of what happened. I love to go to the site. I really enjoy talking to the study coordinator, reading the EHR, see what is the story of the patient. And when I started, there was still some binders over there. But after that to do the SDV, I hated to do the SDV,
You hated,
and
but
I hated.
you did SDR, no issues.
What do you mean by that?
Like the source data review, not just the verification, but looking deeper
Review.
at the data to see, okay, protocol, exclusions, those kind of things.
So this is what I loved. I love to look about the EHR, about the file, to understand what is the story of the patient. What was the challenging for the staff at the site? If they had protocol deviation, why did they have protocol deviation? But to
Mhm.
sit and verify that the lab results was captured correctly, come on, it's so boring and it's waste of time.
To me, clearly, I'm not an outsider, but I'm not really a tech guy. I could see source data verification as replaced by AI soon, if not even already by some. I think it's the sort SDR, right? In many respects, like the inefficiencies are what continue to keep the job security alive for the CRAs. And even some of the things you discussed, like urging sites to enter data, answer query. I mean, these are like soft skills that I don't think AI can do well. You're just gonna ignore the emails from the AI, but from a human being that comes to your site and won't leave until you you answer a query, it's a little bit harder to ignore. Right. So in some respects, I think these inefficiencies, and this is parallels throughout the industry, right? Like there's people making a lot of money and getting very comfortable careers off of the inefficiencies. And then you have guys like you and gals similar to you that come in and use technology to kind of increase these efficiencies and in turn bring costs down, which I think ultimately that's the goal for you guys. But can you kind of speak to this adoption and the hesitancy? Because I think a lot of the hesitancy comes deep down from not wanting to dig their own grave, but they can't say that, so they have to say something else. Am I right about this or or
So it really depends because what it's as we started the conversation, let's speak about the different stakeholders.
Mhm.
The sites are swamped with the work.
Correct.
Okay, you need study coordinators and data coordinators are intelligent people with relevant education, and they need to spend the time on the more complicated data that we cannot transfer automatically. What is happening with that serious adverse event? Okay, with the free text. Sometimes you have gene analysis. Sometimes you still have imaging interpretation. Not everything can be transferred automatically. You need to see, as you said, the big picture of the patient. This must be done by the study coordinator. It's not going to be replaced. But to waste the time with this task to copy structured data from the EHR, from the electronic health record to the EDC to help them to save time. So what we see is that the sites are more than happy to adopt these kind of technologies and they are waiting for the sponsor or for the CROs.
Yeah.
When you're coming to the clinical operation side for the other two stakeholders, so this is starting to be challenging. First of all, I'm not saying it's just about I want to keep my job as the head of the CRA unit. Really, I was the head of the cleanups in a biotech company. I'm No one was fired because he did the traditional way. The company already invested 50 million in getting to the clinical trial for the phase 1. I would ask my CEO for another additional 3 million to do monitoring visits. And I will pay a little bit more to the side. I don't want to shake the boat. To be traditional, to be conservative with data collection, it's always the easiest solution.
Hmm.
So, but you cannot stop innovation and you cannot stop technology for getting
Right.
there because come on, we are almost in 2025. People sit with two screen verifying data.
And even now with this new administration that's going to be hypercritical on spending. I mean, Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, they've already discussed the tremendous waste in public research and there's plenty of inefficiencies in private research, but I think it's magnified in public research. They're gonna be pushing technology and solutions, and you see some of the CROs, namely IQVIA, investing in a lot of these technologies themselves too. And how come, I don't know if you can speak on this. I mean, I understand you may be competitor with a company like Metadata, for example, but I recently did a podcast with Joel White, who's a financial analyst, and he was saying metadata is kind of losing a lot of market share and due to maybe a lack of innovation or a lack of creating some new solutions for sites. Like they've kind of had the same product for a while, and something like YonaLink seems to be obvious to an EDC company to try to pull off. Do you know why? Is this the classic innovator's dilemma, or is there something else going on here?
So first of all, I think that there is a challenge in the EDC space because Rave and even Viva, let's take these two giants.
Sure, sure.
Okay, it's 20 years old technology, 15 years technology, so it was designed to type the data manually. Streaming data, it's a different scenario. It's not. This is an example that a lot of my friends hear about it. You know, Rave, it's a great car with an engine based on gas.
Coordinators love it.
Yeah, now you want to make it a Tesla, an electric car. So so what Rave tried to do is to put to glue a battery on the engine and say, I have an electric car. It's two different cars. You have electric car and you have cars that is based the engine is based on gas. So one of the challenges that we see with the EDC market, they need to develop, I would say differently, EHR to EDC or data streaming is not a feature, it's a product. It's a different thing. You need to think about it when you do the configuration. You need to know the EHRs. You need to know where to put the right field, how to stream it. You're getting much more
Mm.
data. You know it from your background in the site. For to give you one example, the site, as you know, the sponsor or the CROs are coming and asking for the lab normal ranges once a year. Come on, I'm getting it from the EHR direct. So
Yeah.
think about it. The data in the EDC already marked if, like in the EHR, if it's in range, if it's out of range, and you also already get this data. So going back to your question, so I think that the dilemma is how much to invest in the existing product, or how much you need to. Can I take the existing product, convert it into an EHR to EDC, the future EDC that is going to be a leading product in the next 15 years, or do I need to totally replace it?
Hmm. Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, to me, it sounds like, the innovator's dilemma in some respects because your core competency is working so well, everyone wants you to continue just investing in that as opposed to thinking about where the future is headed. Now, for YonaLink, I'm just thinking about my own site. Okay, I have a research clinic here in Arizona, and we have PIs with their own EHR for sure, but a good percentage of our patients come from outside of the clinics, right? So we don't have their EHRs. And so in this case, how is YonaLink better equipped for academic centers or oncology studies where strictly every patient is in the EHR, or can it also work with, community clinics that get a lot of patient referrals from advertising and things like this, where there is no EHR access? We may be able, if we're lucky, we could get a record, right? But we don't have like EHR access.
So YonaLink is utilizing what is called in the nickname the Unblocking Act or the 21st Century Cures Act, meaning the patient is the owner of the data and the patient connect the EHR to YonaLink. So if a patient comes to your clinic and you work with YonaLink, so you can send the patient the link, you can connect the EHR, you can stream the data directly into YonaLink EDC or to any other EDC that was integrated with YonaLink. With a very easy integration, we can, in case you have your own EHR in your clinic, because some of them are not part, it's like a clinic, it's a clinical study clinic like yours. So we can connect your system into YonaLink. It's a very easy
Ah,
because the integration for clinical trial is different from the big data and metadata. It's very, you have dozens of companies like Redox and other companies like Health Gorilla that do like a massive integration with the EHR. Clinical trial, it's a different way of connection. I don't care what you have in your servers, it's yours. In clinical trial, you need specific data from a consented patient, but only in specific intervals. And when I establish the connection, the data that I'm looking is not yet in the EHR. Once the patient will come for the visit, this is when the system needs to know to identify this specific data, take it out of, and put it in the right field in the
I
CRS.
see. I see. Does it work with things like Creo, like eSource, for example, where effectively we use that for patients we don't have AHR, like in the research? Our doctors, they don't allow us to enter anything in their EHRs. So we use Creo, we use eSource, right, for our study. Would it integrate with this, or would we have to like upload something or
No, no, no. You can integrate it into what we call YonaLink Connect. The name is
interesting?
as it. You can
Ah,
connect almost any external resource. So think about it. A patient is in your study. He was hospitalized in a different. You had an adverse event. You don't need to ask him, print me, give me a printout of your of the hospitalization report. Connect the EHR, stream the data that you want, even for unscheduled visit, and then put it in the right field in the CRF.
Interesting. Okay. How challenging was it to get at API for these EDC vendors? I can't imagine. I mean, I can have some sense of I've worked with a few connections who have tried to do similar things, but the hard part was always getting past the vendor and then the sponsor, and the sponsor's too big, they don't want to do it. You have to find like a small sponsor that's willing to take risk. I mean, you know this much better than I do, but
I think it's going back to where we started. You have now we have a new stakeholder. It's the EHR vendors, okay? So
true, true.
if until now we spoke about besides the CRO and the sponsor and the tech vendors, now let's bring into it also the EHR vendors.
Can I name the worst EHR vendors? eClinical Works.
Come on, don't put me there.
From my experience, not from the user, but from playing well with others, the worst, from my experience.
Yeah. So we have different challenges with different EHRs how to connect. We have in the States right now, and this is going back to what you said previously about the community clinic and small clinic. We have almost, I think I need to see the actual count, but more than 7,000 different health providers in the United States. The majority of them are small clinics.
Correct. And you can argue that's gonna increase with the new administration and their ambitious plans for slashing government spending on research. I mean, effectively, that's okay. Academic research you're gonna be on your own, and I think the solution's gonna be sponsors are gonna need more private sites to behave more mature. So the problem with private sites is that they're very efficient. They're very, I guess they're cheaper because their overhead is not as high. Their issue is they're not standardized when it comes to their systems, right? Everything's fragmented. And I think that YonaLink can serve a role in this capacity, at least the way I see it.
So two things. First of all, I think my vision is that if you can stream data, you solve one of the hardest thing in the going to. It's not decentralized because you still have sites, but it's distributed clinical trials. Because think about it, the health systems or the health market is one step behind the financial market, right? Now I can spend money anywhere in the world that I want. I can buy anything, even from a small village in India. Exactly the same with the health data. Okay? Even small medical centers in the rural areas should be able to participate in a clinical trial. It's a huge, in the States, it's almost insane. I saw one of the papers, if I think 2 or 3 years ago, by the ASCO, by the American Association of Oncology, that almost 95% of the Americans do not have access for clinical trials because everything is done in the big institution. Now, distributed clinical trials, you can still come to the big institution for the screening visit to make sure um, that they are eligible for the study. But then the treatment, the ongoing visit, everything can be done in the small clinic. The data will be streamed automatically to the CRF. There will be transparency. Everyone can see what happened to make sure in real time that you don't have any protocol deviation. You can contact the site on real time. Make sure that you have a window. It's easier for the patient to come and do complete if they miss some kind of very critical assessment. So I think technology is the key to make right now clinical trial is a care option. Basically, it's not an option for most of the Americans. We need to make sure that that clinical trial can be a care option for anyone.
Yes, and I know some people don't like that phrase, but at least an option, right, for participants. And I know that's one of the reasons we started our site here in Yuma, Arizona, underserved location. And we've had a lot of success because we have access to the diverse population they want. We have a lot of Hispanics, and what you just said points to diversity initiatives that all these sponsors are mandated now effectively by the regulators. So I do think YonaLink is a powerful tool. I did not realize a lot previously about YonaLink that you can just plug and play kind of so easily and relatively seamlessly. What do you think is the future? You kind of alluded to it because we only have a few minutes left, but we got to do a part two at some point where we can go longer. Um, the-
With pleasure.
we're
Yeah.
not somehow we're not using my account, so we got time limit. But I feel like the
Oh,
machine, you got to put another quarter.
okay.
The future of the industry, because everyone talks about decentralized trials, and you brought it up. But I think that has a limit to how far a PI is willing to outsource. Like ultimately someone's responsible, right? It's usually a PI. How do you see like realistically the future in let's say 5 years and then 10 years of how research is going to be conducted in the communities?
So I think the streaming revolution will start from the big institution. It's already starting, by the way. We have studies all over the United States, big institutions streaming data. It works perfect. With the time, they are going to do, it's going, once a big pharma will start using it, we will see, at the end of the day, the most important thing in a clinical trial is get a patient and enroll as fast as you can. Now, if I can get a patient in Arizona, so in a small clinic somewhere, so they will go to the main institution for the, as I said, for the screening visit, maybe for day zero, all the following assessment can be in the small clinic. The data will be streamed and you will have like a central study coordinator in the big institution with the PI, but they can oversight what is happening in the small clinic.
You know who does a very similar thing to this, what you just proposed? And with this new administration, probably will make a comeback. Psychedelic. So these psychedelic studies, we were a site. So we had what's called a treatment site and an observational site. And the observational site is the one where you don't dispense the psychedelic, but you do all the safety follow-up visits, right? And the treatment site is the specialized Schedule 1 license and have like a spa environment where the people can go on their trip and come back. And it worked. My concern was the financials. Like, okay, well, I'm just a vendor at this point. What is the purpose? No, you're treated like a site. You have your own budget. You have your own, essentially your version of the protocol because you're not doing the treatment part, but you have a protocol for the follow-up. So is this something like what you're referring to, kind of?
Yeah, and I think this is what is so beautiful in the technology revolution, because you do not develop technology for the small site. You think, yes, the big sites will have a huge value out of the technology. Okay, this is where the study right now, because you will save time you will make the study coordinators more happy, you will get data in higher quality, the sponsor will get it quicker. But eventually, the big revolution of the EHR to EDC, it's not just to save money for the sponsor, is to unlock the huge potential of patients all over the world, all over the United States, and eventually all over the world. Because once we will connect medical centers in Africa and South America, think about it, it will be easier to get access for the patient data. It will be easier to enroll them. Everything will be much more easier because this is what technology does.
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, it's just like the scientific method, but applied to technology. You're figuring out the problem and you're making a solution that's not easily variable, right? Like you can't just vary it very, very much. And those solutions become the better ones over time and as you iterate. So it's very interesting to consider that. Do you think this would be considered decentralized clinical trial, or what would you, or you think this is something different?
I like to call it distributed because you still have sites, you still have physician. It's not everything. It's not like a virtual site. You still have an actual site, but it's small site.
No, it makes sense. It makes
We will,
sense.
we will still use the D.
What what are sponsors saying about YonaLink and your guys' solutions? Like, and then what are CROs saying? If we have just a minute, maybe for each.
I think the sponsor, I think both of them get it in a second. Everyone understands that we won't continue copying data from one screen to another. The only discussion if the huge jump with the using of streaming data is going to be in 2025 or 2026, but 2026 the latest. And I'm willing to put my money on it because so many vendors are already using it, and it's already proof technology.
And that's perfect timing for the pharma patent cliff. Same year.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
I
think,
know the
yeah.
correlation there, but it's definitely going to be something to pay attention to, and a lot of changes on the horizon, hopefully for the better. Currently, the way we do trials is unsustainable as far as what it costs, and those costs continue to go up. So I think we need tech to bring down some of these bigger costs, but I appreciate your time, Iddo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Dan. It was very, very interesting. Thank you for
We're
that.
gonna do more of an in-depth one, like a little longer in a few months maybe, and follow up. And would love to see you at SOS too, Save Our Sites conference if you can get out there. I think a lot of
Okay,
sites would
yes.
be interested
Okay,
in
so
learning more about you.
sounds great. Yes.
I'll send you some info. Everybody go connect with Iddo right now. His LinkedIn is underneath the show notes. Again, thank you. Stay tuned for part two. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Bye bye.